Have you ever seen a Rubik's Cube with two different solutions? This cube is clearly solved based on the stickerless colors, but if you shift your focus to the stickers on top, there's an entirely different way to solve it, which looks something like this. I first heard about this puzzle from one of my favorite puzzle modders, Nathan Wilson. You should absolutely subscribe to his new channel if you haven't already. But this mod got me thinking. If we can have a cube with two solutions, then why not three? How many solutions could we reasonably add to a single Rubik's Cube? So in this video, I'm setting myself the goal of 5. 5 distinct solutions, 5 different states that you can put the cube into, and have it be pretty obvious that it's solved in some way. Now, the obvious way to approach this would be to just keep on stacking smaller and smaller stickers until you have 5 colors on each piece. But not only would that be really boring, but I think once you get past 2 or 3 colors, it would just be really hard to tell some of those intermediate solutions. You already have to squint a little bit to see this one, and I want all my solutions to be really obvious. So that means we're going to need to find some other variables, besides just the color of the pieces, which is what a normal Rubik's Cube uses to tell the different sides apart. For example, we could also vary the size of the pieces to create a new solution. The Mirror Blocks famously does this by having a different height for each of the 6 sides, so you have to match up heights instead of colors. You could also use different patterns or shapes. One side could have stickers in the shape of a circle, one of them could have triangles, one of them could have stars, etc. So the question quickly becomes, how do we combine all these different ideas into one puzzle with a bunch of different solutions? And the answer is with a lot of painstaking modding. What we actually need is a stickerless mirror cube, and not just a stickerless mirror cube, but a stickerless mirror cube where the colors are in all the wrong spots. I guess we could 3D print some custom shaped caps to go over top every single piece on a normal mirror cube, then we could print those in whatever colors we want. But at that point, you're pretty much just redesigning all the pieces of a mirror cube anyway, so why not just start from a normal Rubik's Cube and build up from there? The way a mirror cube works is that 3 of the layers are smaller than a normal Rubik's Cube, while the other 3 are bigger, which means that we only actually have to cut down 3 sides of this cube. I think I'll cut down all 3 of them to the same height, as thin as possible, just to make the 3D modeling a little bit easier, because the next step after that is just spending a lot of hours in front of a computer, getting every single piece to be the exact right size and shape, so that I can then 3D print all the caps in all the right colors, and then glue them on. That'll give us our first 2 solutions of our 5 solution cube, height and stickerless color, but hopefully the remaining 3 will be a lot easier after that. Now I know I'm gonna run into some problems along the way. For example, the screws in this Chi CLW are too high up for me to be able to chop these sides off as low as I need them. So I'm probably gonna have to solve that by cutting out all the plastic inside, finding a shorter screw and spring, etc. But for now, I'm just gonna attempt to finish this whole first step, and hopefully it turns out alright. So let's go ahead and start the time lapse. And here you have it, the world's first stickerless mirror cube, I assume. All of the cutting, sanding, and gluing wasn't really that bad, but the 3D modeling took forever. I had to individually model 54 unique pieces, each with their own very specific dimensions. And for each individual piece, it's not just the height you need to know, but also the size of the cut down 3x3 piece underneath it, as well as the heights and exact sizes of all the pieces that it connects to. And it's not just everything's a simple rectangle. We also have all these crazy 3-dimensional connections between pieces with 45-degree angles and cuts, and everything just has to fit together perfectly. This is my sheet of probably incomprehensible notes that I had to write down just to figure out what the pieces would even look like in my head before I started modeling them, and of course trying to calculate what all the different sizes would be. So in short, it actually would have been a heck of a lot easier if I had just bought a normal mirror cube and then designed and print some plastic caps to go on top of those pieces. But hey, I guess I can say I've made my own mirror cube now, which was actually a pretty interesting challenge. Now before we start adding any other solutions, let's just real quick show you what this would look like in its other solution. So right now I'm just making the cross. across, as you can see there, and let's get all the other colors lined up. And then this is what it looks like once it's solved. So a little bit wacky looking, but it is very obvious that each side is its own color, which is what I was going for. As you may have seen, the turning isn't great, but it's not bad either. And it's a little bit weird that you can see the original black pieces underneath the caps and the different heights of the caps all around. I don't think it detracts from the overall experience too much, but those are a couple of other reasons I probably should have just started with an off-the-shelf mirror cube. Okay, so far we've got two solutions, height and stickerless colors. So what's next? I think the obvious next thing to do is the same as the cube in the intro and just put normal stickers on top of the stickerless pieces. Obviously it's a little bit weird because all the pieces are completely different sizes, so we will definitely have to custom cut them out of some uncut sheets. But basically what I'm going to do is generate a random scramble, mix this cube up using that scramble, and then now that this thing is unquestionably in neither of its two solutions, I'm just going to put it in a random orientation and call, how about this the white side and this the green side, and then cut out stickers to put on each face. That's basically the same thing I did to differentiate the first two solutions, except I was choosing the 3D printed plastic colors rather than the sticker colors, but that pretty much ensures that every solution is completely different from all the other solutions. And then once I'm done stickering to finish our third solution, well, I have a couple of ideas to get our last two solutions, which also involve some stickers, but in more creative ways. I mentioned the ideas earlier of having different shapes on each piece, as well as just having stickers on top of stickers, and I think I can combine those two in a clever way to get all 5 of our solutions pretty easily. So I'm about to begin a crazy number of hours of work just cutting out stickers by hand, so wish me luck, and I'll see you on the other side. Alright, all the stickers have been applied, which means that the 5 solution cube is now officially finished. As you can see, each piece now has 2 stickers on it, one that perfectly matches the shape of the piece, and another one on top in a specific shape, in this case an X. The other 5 shapes, by the way, are triangles, circles, lines, squares, and stars, just the 6 most distinctive shapes that I could think of. Now it does get a little bit confusing in places like this, where the 2 stickers are the same color. There's even a few places where you have the 2 stickers and the stickerless part underneath that are all, in this case, blue. But that's kind of inherent to the randomness of having a different scramble for each of the 5 solutions. As you can see, there's another totally red one right here, and a totally orange one right here. But either way, I really love how the stickers turned out. As you probably saw, instead of trying to completely brute force it and cut everything by hand, I did the smart thing and designed everything on a computer beforehand, making sure I had the exact right sizes and shapes for each color, and then printed that out as a template, and used that to cut out the stickers with a knife, which made things infinitely easier. Ultimately, it only took about 2 hours to cut out the stickers. Now, as you can probably tell, this cube is in a completely random state at the current moment with none of the different features lined up. And so why don't you say we start our first of 5 solves in this cube to check out all the different solutions. The first and probably most unique way to solve it is by the heights of the pieces. So this is treating it just like a mirror cube, ignoring all the colors and shapes. You could do this thing blindfolded. And here we have it, solution number 1. This is probably my favorite of all the solved states, just because it's the most obvious, being a cube, and all the colors just look so pointless and chaotic all around the puzzle. The second way to solve it, same as before, is by the underlying color of the stickerless pieces. They're definitely a little bit harder to see now with all the stickers on, and it's a little bit harder to solve because you have to filter out all the other colors in your brain. Okay, number 2. This one you might have to squint out a little bit, but as with most of these, it actually makes a lot more sense if you just look at each face head on, and so now it's really obvious that each side is just one single color in the background there. This one I have to say is probably my second favorite, just because of the ridiculous amount of time that I poured into making a stickerless mirror cube, and so I'm glad it looks at least reasonably distinctive when it's solved in this way. Solution number 3 involves matching up the colors of the large normal shaped stickers on each piece. In a way, this one is the most like solving a normal Rubik's Cube because these colors are the biggest and most visible on the outside of the puzzle. So that makes this one probably the most obvious color-based solution. As you can see, absolutely no question that this thing is solved. Again, one of my original goals was to make sure that all 5 solutions look pretty obviously solved at a glance. This one obviously does pretty good with that, but let's check out the remaining 2. There's one more solution that involves matching up colors, in this case of the small shapes in the middle of each piece. This might just be the one that you have to squint at the most, just because the shapes are so small that you really have to pay attention to block out those bigger colors in the background. Okay, I'll admit this is probably the weakest solution of them all, but again, look at it one side at a time, and it's pretty obvious that that side's red, that side's blue, and that side's white. Even at a glance, I think most people could figure this out in a couple of seconds, so I'm ready to call this a success as long as our last solution also looks pretty good. And that fifth and final solution involves matching up the shapes of the smaller stickers on each side of the puzzle. Much like some sort of colorblind cube, this is very similar to solving a 3x3 normally. You just have to convince your brain to look at different shapes instead of different colors. This one, along with the mirror cube, are definitely the most interesting and difficult solutions to solve. This was the first time I actually found myself resorting to the beginner's method, just because I'm so unfamiliar with matching up shapes. But at the same time, it was kind of nice that my brain could just ignore the cacophony of colors and focus on something else for a change. It's actually amazing how easy it is to concentrate while you're doing this solution, as well as with the mirror cube, because you're using a completely unique variable rather than the 3 color ones which are just competing for your attention. But still, I'm going to call this an absolute success. I think it would be a fun challenge in the future to try and come up with 5 different solutions where only one of them is color, only one of them is shape, one of them is height, and find 2 other things to use. So let me know down in the comments if you have any ideas. As for me, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I think another fun project would be just how many solutions you can fit into one cube if you just stacked stickers on top of stickers on top of stickers. You could probably reach 8 or 10 pretty easily. 15 might be a bit of a stretch, but let me know what you guys come up with. As for me, I'll stick with these 5 for now, but I really hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.